The seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, here we go. The Boyce bus rolls in on a Monday evening for Boyce's Monday Club. Look who it is. Tim is back. The last show we did was the 23rd of May. So that has been the longest, I think, gap, Jonathan, between the two brothers Boyce, as it were, appearing live on your airwaves. Jonathan, how the devil are you, my man?
I am good. It's good to be back after a 3-week hiatus. I'm back, and it looks as if the bus has been in very good hands in my absence. And, you know, I'm looking forward to now getting stuck into some good old-fashioned debate this evening.
Yes, mate. Yes, mate. You sound like a wee bit like you're in a fish tank, but that's okay. It's not that bad. It does sound a wee bit different to normal.
Trial and error with the old sound, isn't it?
It is, mate. It is, mate. It is. Oh, they're saying I'm down a tunnel. What?
Well, it's you that's in the tunnel. Oh, how the tables have turned. How quickly that was.
Aye, is it my mic that's weird? It shouldn't be. What is going on, Jonathan?
Oh, I don't know. 3 weeks away. When I come back to chaos. Oh, now he's on mute. Oh no, I can't hear anything you're saying now. Oh, now he's disappeared, I think. I wonder where on earth he's gone. This is now just me hosting the show by the looks of things, so this is bizarre. Hopefully he's managing to get this all sorted out in the background. Not entirely sure what he's done here with this, to be fair, but I'm sure he's going to be getting this all worked out pronto. Yep, feels like it is. You're right, John. Feels like it is just all up to me. I can see some of the comments coming in. I'm not even sure how to pull them up, to be honest with you. Not something I normally would be doing, but looks as if the stage is mine. I know I'm going to be hosting the quiz coming up on Saturday. It looks as if he's just went and dumped me in the deep end a wee bit early. Oh, he's back now. Oh, no, can't hear him still. He's disappearing on the voice. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. You take a 3-week break and then you come back to this. Should have just done Monday Club by myself. It looks like I don't know what he's doing here. I'm not very good with the old voice language, so no idea what he's doing. Hopefully he manages to get himself fixed. It's been a while since we've had issues like this. Normally it happens backstage before we go on, but now it just looks as if he's completely disappeared. Yeah, Pat, old Boyce sounding better than usual. I have to agree with you. Having lived with him for so long, it is definitely nice to hear the lips moving, but no sound coming out, Pat. Doesn't happen often enough, if you ask me, on these things. Yeah, let's have a debate on Russell's silence. Well, we could have a debate on it. It's very, very rare we get silence from Russell, so it's nice to get a bit of silence. Silence is bliss, as they say. I can see Ryan Taylor's coming in. What do you think of the new kit? Well, actually, I do actually quite like the new kit, Ryan. I think it's one of those ones, throwback to 1992, I think it is. So it's a nice one. It's one I think that's been selling out in big numbers, so hard to get a hold of anywhere else at all. So certainly, if you've managed to get one, then you've done well. I've not really looked at it much. In terms of what I've been up to, I can see people asking where I've been, and I've got a wee bit of a tan actually. Bizarrely enough, I've not even been abroad. I've only been up a few hills. And I've managed to somehow burn myself so bad that I'm pretty much red up to about here. Hence why I'm wearing the hoodie tonight, so nobody can see it. And then I'm pretty much chalk white like Casper the Friendly Ghost from about my torso right up between up to my shoulders. It's crazy how bad it is. Jay Lee, no, this is not a Liam Gallagher style hoodie. It's quite a nice hoodie though. It's a new one I just got recently. Nice for Adidas number, so I'm fairly chuffed with that. Patrick McLaughlin, you're asking how many loan signs maximum in the squad should we restrict it to? Well, it's funny you should mention that, Patrick, because I believe that's actually one of the talking points we are going to be discussing this evening. So I don't want to go too much into depth on that just now. I can see, obviously, though, we're having more questions about the kit. Oh, he's back now. Running commentary. This has been improv for the last 10 minutes.
I don't think my sound's working, mate. I don't think my sound's working.
I can hear you now.
I don't think they'll be able to hear it, mate. I don't think they'll be able to hear it because I'm not using my actual mic. The mic's not picking anything up. I don't know why.
Oh.
I don't know. Well, I don't know if someone just quickly says, "Can they hear me?" If they can hear me, I don't know how because I'm not even using this.
I can hear you. I can hear you before.
Sound okay.
Was that just you throwing me in the deep end there this Saturday, pretty much giving me a 5-minute job, posting the ranks. For a wee moment there. The buses kind of went off-road. I don't know what we were discussing, but good to have you back, Russell.
Thanks, Jonathan. I appreciate it, mate. Jay Lee's in there saying, Russell, your sound is perfect. That is good to know, mate. That is good. It's different, but a lot better. Okay. No worries. I'm back. Where were we? Jonathan. It's difficult when you've lost your string. I'm usually on a roll by now.
You're probably at the point of the show where you kind of say what you're going to be discussing. Thank the viewers for tuning in, Russell. I'm going to keep you right on this part.
You sound mental, though, to me at my end. I don't get it. Right, okay. Now, what we will do, Jonathan, is we will crack on with the Monday Club. We have got some good talking points for this evening. I'm sure whilst we were in that wee bit of delay there, that you wung it, Jonathan, and you were bringing up some comments, or at least reading them out. If you don't know how to bring them up, that's fine. But what we will be doing is going through the talking points that I've raised for the night's show. It is the Monday Night Club, Jonathan. It's the first time in 3 weeks that we've both been doing this. A lot has happened. We're not going to recover the last 3 weeks. I think we've done enough shows in there. But if you think the Boise bus has been overly busy because it's close season, well, you might live to regret those words, whoever you are, because we are going to be, from the start of the new season, Jonathan, 7 days a week. You will have Boyce bus content. Yes. And it doesn't mean you'll need to put up with my shitey microphone or my dulcet tones, whatever way you want to look at it. You won't have to deal with any of that, Jonathan, because we will be delegating a wee bit more as well. We're going to have Phil Mcginlay's Bustalgia extending throughout the season, Jonathan, with a wee spin on the format, which I'm looking forward to Phil explaining to us as well. We're also going to be delegating other shows, Jonathan, and mixing it up a wee bit and seeing who else can host and things like that. And I'm going to be trying to bring out the best in the bus, because so far the standard's been unbelievable. So far, everyone who's came on the Double Down shows wanted to come on another show at the very least. And with that, you get examples like the most recent one, like being like Mark Kearney, for example, who's done 3 shows in the last 2 weeks now, after making, he only done his first show, I think, I don't know, a month or 2 ago on the Double Down show. So it will be 7 days we'll be doing Monday Club, still me and you. We'll be doing TNF, so probably look to bring in a third member for that. It'll very much be, that's David Logue's TNF, you know what I mean? Yeah. Phil McGinley's Nostalgia, he's going to be hosting 3 or 4 guests, Jonathan, to go down memory road with Celtic. We're also going to have post-match pish twice a week, because with the World Cup coming up, Jonathan, I worked out we're going to be playing, if it's not a European game, it's going to be like a League Cup game, a league game, because there's a 6-week break coming up because of the World Cup, mid-season. So there are going to be a lot more like crammed fixtures, I think, in the first half of the season. So we're going to be doing that. We're also going to be bringing back the Sunday sesh. And I know people are missing faces like Terry Robb, Paul McFarlane, regulars on the sesh. They'll all be making their comebacks and the likes of that. The Sunday blether with Regan is going to be carrying on at brunch time, Jonathan. Every Sunday, if Celtic are playing at 12 that day, we'll just bring it forward to 11 o'clock or 10:30, because that show just seems to be going from strength to strength as well. It's all happening, mate. And I love it, man. So why don't we go for the start of the season, 7 days a week, the bus will run. If you've not
stop by the sounds of it.
You know it, mate. You know it. Now, if you've not hit the like button, why the fuck? No, just hit it. It's easy. And if you've not subscribed, hey ho, that's up to you. But if you do subscribe, you can hit a wee bell, get me notifications and all that. And if you want to share the content, that would be great. But sod all that. It's time, man, to get into it. Oh, and a big thank you as well to Kaiser, Jonathan. We've got 31 members right now. If you want to become a member, it's optional. You don't have to. It's just your way of supporting the channel. Call it a tip, if you will, monthly of $1.99. Now, each month, if you do the $1.99, the only benefit you get, Jonathan, is there's a couple of emojis that Kaiser has added to the repertoire that I did make available on YouTube today. So hopefully they are able to get used. That's the Clover one Tattoo Face is using, but there should be one like the wee mini Boise Bus Round logo. And there should be one with like the actual cartoon version of the bus, you know what I mean? But I did sort all that today, so hopefully they're available to you. If not tonight's, then future further down the line. Anyway, Jonathan, let's talk about a cult hero of the bus. No, not Phil McGinlay, Jonathan. No, not Paul McFarlane, Jonathan. Not even yourself, but a real cult hero of the bus. His name is Chaos Giakoumakis. Jonathan, he scores a worldie of a header. Let's be honest, that was a worldie of a header last night. Chaos 1, Kos 0. Now, Jonathan, the thing is, mate, Giakoumakis is one of these players now for me. How? He's a headache. He's a nice headache to have, but how is Ange going to fit him in to the big games next year? I'm talking about starting in these games, Jonathan. I don't think we can afford to have a guy with the quality that Chaos Giakoumakis brings to the table and him not playing, mate. I've got to be honest on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, and it's one that we've looked at a few times. I think particularly as the season's gone on, Giakoumakis has went from strength to strength. You have to remember he missed the first half of last season, and he still ends up finishing joint top goal scorer in the league, and getting some really important goals to boot along the way. And it's not even just his goal scoring; he offers us something totally different from what the rest of them actually offer in the attacking areas. So for me, I think he's pivotal to have a role to play both at home and indeed abroad when the European games come around as well. So I think when it comes to Giakoumakis, you've got to be looking at a way to get him into the team. I'll probably then boil down to the fact that Postecoglou seems, as it stands so far, fairly set in his ways with the one up front philosophy, which only really gives him the option of probably Giakoumakis or Kyogo. As it stands, I think he'll probably buy in another striker in the summer. I know there's been a bit of talk about that possibly happening as well. But if he's going to be going with one up top, then that would probably mean Kyogo goes out wide, which makes it a little bit trickier to bring him in completely, I would say, just because I think Kyogo brings more to the table through the middle as well, and you end up in an unfortunate either-or situation if he was to go down that. For me, I would love to see him finally take the chance next season, particularly in the league games, especially ones at home, where he actually goes with both of them up front. You know, you get Chaos and you have Kyogo there, and you just think the two of them are frightening together. I mean, you put it this way, when it comes to Kyogo is the top goal scorer and seemed our best player by a country mile first half of the season. Kyogo then gets injured in December. Giakoumakis then comes in, and you almost forget Kyogo's even a player that's available to us when he comes back, because Giakoumakis has ended up doing such a good job in his absence. But for me, I always think you've got to be looking at getting your best players in, and you're probably thinking, you know, Chaos and Kyogo are probably two of our best players. So it makes logical sense to try and find a way of working it so that both of them are included. And, you know, you possibly have to mix up the formation slightly in order to do that. I mean, from your point of view, would you kind of be looking at probably the two of them playing up front together? How would you go about factoring Giakoumakis in, Russell? Nope. Oh, he's disappeared again. He's disappeared again. We'll be interested to see what other people are thinking in the comments on this one. But, you know, I think when it is with Kyogo, you definitely have got to be looking at it. And, you know, the Egyptian King brings up a point that's definitely going to be Kyogo in a fight with Giakoumakis for that starting place next season. And yes, I'd have to agree with you on that point, that it definitely is seeming like almost straight up battle between the two of them to play up front in that sort of number 10 role, if you like, because it just doesn't seem, you know, as if Ange Postecoglou is overly keen on playing two up front from what we've seen so far. So it does look like it could be done like that. Brown Warrior coming in, 4-3-3 with two wing backs, and then you've got both Maeda and Kyogo coming inside as inside forwards. I like the sound of that. I think that could work. It certainly adopts itself to kind of modern tactics as well, in terms of the sort of inverted wing backs, having the wing backs pushing further up the field. I think that's something that the Celtic fans could get on board with. There, I do feel if you're going to go down the route of two wing backs, they're probably going to need to get somebody else in at left back, because I just don't see Greg Taylor as a viable option to play a wing back sort of role. I don't feel he brings enough to the table going into the forward areas. But, you know, there's plenty of talk going on there about a new left back coming in, and I would suspect that is probably going to be one of the positions that Postecoglou looks to strengthen in the next coming weeks on that point, you know, as well. So hopefully that is something he could address. I think there's a lot of people coming in, you know, and also agreeing that 4-3-3 would have been a good one. So, you know, Chucks is also coming in with another point, saying that, you know, he's a legend. Do you think Ange would tinker the formation? No, and it's an interesting one when you look at it, Chunks, because I'm not entirely sure whether or not he would want to tinker his formation. Postecoglou seems fairly set in his ways. I think with a lot of these sort of, you know, games, he's not really ever looked to change it. I think there's always an opportunity for him to change it. And, you know, in games, particularly these home games in the league where you're coming up against teams you could potentially be steamrolling. I feel like sometimes Postecoglou could just go, that extra gear and bring in Chaos and Kyogo from the start. And, you know, it could cause absolute bedlam. I know Russell was obviously mentioning previously last season it could end up scoring 10 goals at home. And I think particularly if you played the two of them together, you know, there's no danger. The two of them could end up getting 5 each themselves. So it's one of those ones where, you know, it could go either way. You know, I can see other people coming in wondering where Russell's gone. Russell causing chaos tonight. He certainly is. He never mentioned this as part of the script to me this evening, that he was going to be letting me drive the bus solo. So we're all in this together. I'm afraid I wasn't aware I was getting the keys. So Apologies if I'm going a little bit off-road. I'm trying to drive the bus as well as I can. Phil Mcginlay, he says I'm driving it like a pro. Well, I'm certainly trying. I'm certainly working on my provisional, I would say, so far at it, just now. I think, Paul McFarlane's bringing in a good point where I think he's talking about the sort of 3-5-2 formation, and I know that is one that we are quite a fan of, and particularly as we always like to go back to on this podcast, it goes right back to Martin O'Neill, doesn't it? It's like the guy that we always want to bring up. I feel like it's a bit of Boyce bus bingo as to what minute we're going to get Martin O'Neill's name mentioned on the show, and there we were at minute 21. Boyce bus bingo, Martin O'Neill's name has been mentioned. But yes, back to the point, 3-5-2 certainly would work. It certainly can work. And when you're looking at it, I would say the only thing you're possibly looking at, and it would be interesting to know, I guess, what you guys all think of this as well, is if you're playing a 3-5-2, who's your three centre halves? Because you've obviously got Starfelt and Carter Vickers. Obviously, the big news getting signed up, just on Friday. But in terms of another option at centre half, I feel like we're still lacking a bit. I don't think Postecoglou trusts Julian too much in that role, so it does look like we're going to have to find somebody else who's going to need to play in that. I'm not convinced Welsh is going to be the full answer for playing that formation if it was going to be a long-term sort of gig, as well. So there has to be potentially another signing, I would think, at centre-half if they were going to go down that route. But certainly a 3-5-2 would be of interest to me. I'd love to see Celtic try that a little bit more in these games. Ryan Taylor, you're coming in and asking a question. What's your thoughts on the Jota situation? Well, when it comes to Jota, it's an interesting one. I actually thought this deal would have been done, Ryan, a while back, to be honest with you. You're looking at it, you've seen him out and about. I feel like he was just getting photos taken left, right and centre for a while. I felt like it was Jota on tour. It was like, like a few years ago, I remember when I think it was Gareth Bale went to Real Madrid, there was a bit like Bale watch with all the press and paparazzi around him. I've kind of felt it's been similar vibes with Jota over the last couple of weeks. So it certainly seems to me as if this is a deal that should be about done. I feel, and I would probably agree with what Scott's House coming in with, is that I think the deal is going to get done this week. I cannot see it dragging out much longer. I'm not sure how long Celtic have until the deadline is to actually sign up Jota permanently before that option to buy, expires. But certainly the player seems interested. The two clubs seem as if, Benfica don't seem to have any intention of using him going forward. And I think Celtic are obviously fairly interested, in him as well. So for me, there makes no sense not to get that deal done. It's and hopefully it is just a couple of things to just sort out and iron out between them. They've got to just dot the I's and cross the T's. But certainly, I think if you were looking at Jota, I would have to turn around and say the fact that I see Carter Vickers first, I think it was very surprising, because I thought Jota was definitely going to be the one that was going to come in first out of the two of them with how things were progressing there. But I mean, it's all looking pretty exciting on that front, I've got to say. I think, if you're looking at what Jota has brought to the table in the last year, I think you've got to be thinking he's capable of doing it at a higher level. I think we need players of his ability to take us further forward into the Champions League. So I do think that's definitely something that we're going to need to be looking at as well. Obviously, Brown Warriors coming back in with a left wing back suggestion, saying Jay-Z we are supposedly looking at. And that would be certainly an option available to us. I know we've been looking at a few different ones in that position. So hopefully, as I say, I think that's certainly one that we'll need to strengthen. I think Postecoglou probably sees that as a priority. It looks as if Liam Scales could even be off to Aberdeen as the kind of cover left back, isn't he, really, at the moment? You're kind of looking at Greg Taylor and thinking he's not got enough in the tank possibly to manage a full season of playing consistently all the games. Plus, has he got the ability to really step up when you're playing in a Champions League game? Probably not, I would say, as well. So it's it's one of those ones that I think when it comes to Taylor, they'll need to have a look at it and really kind of think things through as to what they can actually do with him. Brian Galt's coming in saying he's seen something earlier that Jota could be on 60 grand a week. Not seen that before. Oh, look, here he's back. The driver
I don't know if it's a work.
I can hear you.
I'm on the old mobile, mate.
Oh, no, we're not getting your face.
No, I'm here. And then we need to... I called in the cavalry, Jonathan.
Hello, everybody.
Go on, Phil.
Hi.
I've never done this with my phone before, so I don't know if this will work or no. I don't know if I'm going to be able to put this out as a podcast. Like, I might need to try and edit it. But anyway, sorry, Jonathan. Thank you so much. Your ad-libbing skills,
Brilliant.
no bounds. Can you hear me all right?
Aye. I just
Aye. Probably better than normal. Teresa Lyle is saying Jonathan done an amazing job. So, oh look, I just tap the button and it comes up. I might just do it on my phone from now on. It's a lot easier, isn't it? Scott House says Jono's stole our job. Right, Jonathan, where did you go to? I take it Giakoumakis has been covered, yeah?
Giakoumakis has been covered. I've pretty much turned into a Thursday night forum. I was going through the comments, didn't know how long you were going to be, so I didn't bother touching your topic points in too much detail. I didn't want to steal your thunder. Well,
Jonathan, the talking points is maybe the only thing I can't work out how to bring up. But you've got them on your phone, don't you?
I do have a copy of them, yes, so I can bring them up. Because
I'm using my phone now. Do you know what I mean?
That's it. I feel, no, that's okay. I feel like a crash course. This has been a driving lesson today with.
There
was no instructor either. I've just left my own devices, so apologies if this has been a bit of a crash.
Not at all, mate. Not at all.
Mate. You handled it really, really well. You really did.
There you go.
So, in terms of the next one, I think we'll talk about, because we were discussing it just before you came on, Russell, is about the fact that Jota is on the way. And here's, the reasons why we think it's done, which I think you had a few points you were wanting to raise into why you were thinking it was going to get done, which actually ties in nicely with what we were talking about before you joined.
Well, Jonathan, we don't kid on to be ITK in the know, as it were, on the Boyce bus. We don't kid on to have sources, Jonathan. But what the bus does have is eyes, Jonathan, and the passengers have eyes. Now, Jota, recently, there's a body of evidence now, Jonathan. Jota and Cameron Carter-Vickers, I think both, it was mixed messages at the end of the season as to whether they were signing or not. But realistically, they were two of the happiest players we've seen on Trophy Day, right? So whilst there was a wee bit of mixed signals, I don't think you could have said either were less likely to join than the other come the end of the season. We all just panic. Everyone's voted, by the way, for you, Jonathan, to take over now. That's fine. In the log, indeed. So the thing is, Jonathan, what's happened is Celtic have released a behind-the-scenes video of the new kit launch.
Right.
Within that, it says the date. Now, on that date, my sniper on the bus happened to be around Celtic Park, I think it was, right, where they seen the players going in that day, and it wasn't a game day, and he thought it was odd. And Jota was one of them, Jonathan. But it wasn't the full squad, it was a select group. And we reckon that Jota was one of those. Jonathan, if he was there that day, maybe he'll be modelling that home kit. What do you make of that? Just to spice it up a little bit, mate.
Yeah, well, that would be huge, if they are able to get that done, and certainly would make sense if you're going to have anyone modelling any kit. You would pick George Michael himself, really. Why would you go for anybody else? Really on something like that. I was kind of why I kind of almost expect them to have done the away kit, which I know you and Mr. Lowe touched upon on Thursday night, and he was able to get his crystal ball with the in the Logue prediction for the next day about the signing of Carter-Vickers. So I do think if we can get Jota in sooner than later, we're riding a bit of a wave of momentum, at the moment. When you look at it and you think, we got Carter-Vickers day one of the transfer window. The last transfer window, we signed 3 Japanese players on day one of that window. If we can continue to ride waves of momentum like this, get our players in early, then what a message it sends to all of our rivals that this Celtic team and board and actually, mean business and can really put it on. And, as I say, with the Jota deal, it does kind of feel like they're delaying it. I don't know if they're just waiting for the right moment, but it feels like it's a deal that should be done. And I was saying that when you were off the air, that it just looked as if all the cards are kind of in place for that to really be finished. So I don't really see any reason for that to, be dragging on much longer. And you're possibly right. Maybe they're just waiting for the right moment to do it, because timing is indeed everything on a lot of these occasions with Celtic.
Aye, I think so. Phil, the Jota one's interesting. I think as well, we've got to look at the fact the guy's wearing a Celtic tap on holiday. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, let's get real here, Phil. There's no danger he's doing that and not signing. Surely. I'm convinced that Jota's already, I think it's already agreed. What do you reckon?
Even before you told us that wee snippet of ITK there about your sniper spotted him, I didn't know that part. I did not even know that was a thing. But yeah, I thought that as well. Seeing all the pictures of him, like, is it New York City he's been on holiday? Yeah. Stories he's been having kickabouts with Celtic fans in New York wearing a Celtic shirt. Players who have been on loan don't do stuff like that. I've always been quite confident it's going to happen, and I'm even more confident now with what you've just told me. So yeah, I'm very, very excited about it. And just in regards to business coming up, I've said it for quite a while now, I could see us being really quick with the business this summer window. I think by middle of July, we'll have probably the core of what Ange wants done, the majority of it, in the door, so they can be out on that training park and getting, the system drilled into them and be ready for the season starting. And when do we go away to this? Is it Austria? We've got a training camp in mid-July. They're going away to Austria, isn't it? So I think Ange will want, the majority of his signings in the door. Doesn't want to be messing about on deadline day like we've done in the past, scrambling around for a last-minute loan or whatever. So I could see us being pretty hasty with this.
No, I agree with that. I think as well, we need to look at... with regards to the Jota deal, I think Jota and CCB have given us and this is my link to the other talking point, by the way. I think what they've done, though, is they gave us a flavour of what the positives are of the loan market, Jonathan, right? Now, the loan market's been an area, me and Del spoke about it on Friday, it's frustrated me for years, do you know what I mean? But I think the option to buy thing completely changes the goalposts on that. Now, right now, Celtic are reportedly being linked with that midfielder, D'Souza, is it? What is his name? I had it up earlier before the Wi-Fi broke.
One of the many names I've seen flying about. D'Souza is one of them.
D'Souza, Vinicius D'Souza, I think that's his name. It's coming back to me now. And he was basically, he's someone that's going to cost around $7.5 million. And I think Celtic have went, well, we want that option to buy. The try before you buy technique, Jonathan, if you like. A lot of fans, I think, though, are going to be split on that. I kind of get it. We spoke about the benefits of it, me and Del, on Friday, Jonathan, but I'm going to be honest and say, well, the flip side is, and fans have got a right to look at it from a different angle, go, why are we mucking about? Why are we mucking about when we've got the money in the bank? Now, the Champions League, Jonathan, it is public information what you earn in prize money off that. How many seats Celtic have and how many tickets will be sold is public information that we all are aware. It's 60,000, for these games. The TV money is public information. It can all be accessed. We are going to bring in an astounding amount of cash this summer that we've not done in years. With the fact that we've got healthy books as it is, there might be many fans, Jonathan, that keep giving and feel like loan buys at this stage when we're at the top table is still a wee bit too tentative for their liking. And they want to see Celtic be a wee bit more cutthroat this summer. And as Phil says, if Ange wants to have this squad settled and over the line, well, I tell you what, he must have done one hell of a job on that board for them to change their ways as such to do that. Because the thing is with the option to buy, Jonathan, commonly you don't see those loan options happen early in a summer transfer window. Those sort of deals will happen later in a summer transfer window. So if Celtic are looking to get Vinicius, is it De Souza or just Souza? If they're looking to get him, Jonathan, and he is 7.5 million, are Celtic right to still be tentative of that sort of a fee? Or are we at a stage right now where we go 7.5 million, right, is 2.5 million less than what Aberdeen are about to sell a right back to Liverpool for? So get your finger at your arse and go get him if that's who Ange wants. And don't piddle about with the option to buy. That should be getting used. I was talking favourably about on Friday, Jonathan, because I felt we've seen the benefits of it with Cameron Carter-Vickers and Jota. But remember, those guys arrived on the last day of the window. I am not against us doing that again this summer. But I think when we're getting players identified and targets like made clear to the board early in the summer, I don't want to see price tags being the stumbling block when, as I say, they are less than what Aberdeen are about to sell a player for.
Yeah, I think, when you look at the revenue and the money that's going to be coming in, and, I think there's every right that Postecoglou wants somebody, particularly given what he's achieved in his first season. I think it all comes back to the point that you've got to back Ange Postecoglou, and if he's wanting somebody in and he thinks the best thing to be doing is to be buying them up front, then that's exactly what should be happening. There shouldn't be any reason, for us to be dilly-dallying about with a loan to buy situation under those circumstances. I think if it was a bit different and, Celtic were potentially paying, breaking the record transfer fee or something like that, I could understand a bit more the board being a bit sceptical, particularly if it was like a young player who might be a bit raw and they maybe think, well, if we can get him on loan, perhaps similar to what happened with Edouard to begin with, and then buy him, he's going to cost you like 10, 11, 12 million, let's just say for argument's sake. I could understand it a little bit more, the tentativeness there, because they don't want to end up making a very costly mistake. But if it's going to be in the round, as we've said a few times, £7 million is not really going to be getting you a lot for your money anymore. £7 million is very cheap in the footballing world now. That's just the way it is. I think we're just so used to seeing Celtic signing players for £2-3 million a pop, and it's been going on for decades. The way we actually get surprised sometimes when they actually spend upwards of £5 million on a player, which shouldn't really be the case, because as you rightly say, now we've got the Champions League money, particularly when you look at what Postecoglou's done, and it's not even just the fact of what he's achieved. You've got to remember he's almost rebuilt a full squad in that year, playing with pretty much the way Celtic wanted him to play it in the first season, not giving him as much money to spend. And the fact that he's managed to then, turn that around, I think if he turns around and identifies a player he wants, they're going to cost £7-8 million, but he's adamant that they are right for the team, then you have to go out there and you have to back them. Otherwise, and I would imagine you'd probably agree with me here, there is a possibility that you already start to peeve Postecoglou off, which is the last thing anyone needs at Celtic at the moment.
I think that's very important that you say that, Jonathan. We spoke about how, Phil, we think Ange actually has liked the fact maybe that he was left as a lone, I was going to say a lone ranger there. That definitely doesn't work, that statement. But, I think the fact that he was left on his own, almost to his own devices, suited him because he knew it was sink or swim. Do you know what I mean? Yep. And he knew if he gets it right, that means all the aces are in his hand. Yeah. If it doesn't go right, then he'll have went down and having done everything the way he wanted to do it at the very least. I think either way, Ange knew that being on his own might not be the end of the world for him. Now, boy, oh boy, it's paid off. It all went right. He now has the loving of the fans. I said on Friday, he didn't just sort the team, he sorted the club, because the harmony between the fans and the and the board were so bad, so fragmented. They can't afford to cheese this guy off, Bill. Now, by the way, this could all be paper talk. We've also spoke as Celtic fans about the media having narratives against the club, and at times that they like to stir the pot where it's not maybe necessary, and try and make situations out of nothing to make it seem like maybe, for example, Ange isn't being backed in the market with instances like this, Phil. How do you see it with the Vinicius one? Do you feel like Celtic, I mean, I know Brown Warrior, I think, was in the comments there saying it's the wages in capital letters, we get your point, mate, that are the stumbling block. And I'm like, well, I think when you're up in the ante in terms of your fees, the wages are going to be higher, Phil. This is natural progression for me. The ongoing costs of the club, the day-to-day of the club costs are expected to increase when your revenue is increasing by the crazy percentages it's about to with Champions League football.
Got to speculate to accumulate, as the old saying goes. You know, we're going playing the Premier competition in the continent. First time in a good few years that we've done it. We can't be messing about. And Ange, you're right. I've said it before on the show, and in fact, most of us have touched on this point. He definitely backs himself. He knows he's good. He talked many times, you know, early in the season when things started a bit started. He talked about, you know, the plan and so forth, and he had a vision of how he wanted to go, and it all paid off. It's gave him the clout now for whatever he wants, he gets. We're seeing this talk about Harry Kewell maybe coming in to be part of the backroom staff as well. So that shows that, you know, last summer when he came in, it was obviously really quick, had to get him in the door. Maybe didn't have time to get other staff members in, but at the same time, I think if the option was put on the table for him, I still think last year he would have went, no, I'll do it myself, because again, he knows and he believes in himself that if I pull this off, you know, I'm immortal here, essentially. And in regards to what the media stirring it up, I've just kind of always taught myself to just switch yourself off from them. Like I saw lots of people tweeting the other day, and again, it just shows you how these rumours can just gain momentum. The reason why the Jota deal hasn't been sealed yet is he's looking for 60,000 a week. And I was like, where did that come from? Some ludicrous claim somewhere and whatever report, and one person sees it and he tells another person, it just builds traction. And I'm like, there's no way that this boy's been on loan for a year at the club, knowing how it operates, knowing the wage structure, and suddenly at the last minute it's going to turn around and go, I want 60 grand a week. And it's like, these are the things that the media do. And it's like, no.
That's a great example.
Yeah, just switch yourself off to it. Like my thing with all these player links and that, we're getting linked with every player. It feels like we've got 4 left backs have been linked with us in the last like 3-4 weeks. And it's like, my opinion is always, once I see a player paraded on the Celtic way with a scarf above their head, that's when I start to get excited about it, because, you know, you'll see like a name come up and people are like, you know, sharing YouTube videos and talking about, watch these YouTube highlights. Oh, he's amazing. He'll suit Ange's style. And it's like, look, I think the media are just trying to be first to everything, and they're just guessing with a lot of things. So my advice regarding that is just switch yourself off from them. Honestly, like some of the nonsense they spout out there, I wouldn't believe anything if they're trying to spread rumours about we're stalling on Sousa's wages and all that. Look, the club behind the scenes is they're the ones that know what's going on. The media, I think, are just second guessing a lot of things, throwing stuff against a wall and seeing what sticks, you know?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do think that's fair. It's interesting. I mean, we're going to talk, Jonathan, about how Celtic are going to act in this transfer market. It's not just about wages and how much they pay for a player. I've said a few times now, I'm not particularly bothered whether a player's costing £10 million or they cost £1 million, you know, or £1.5 million like Hatate was. You know, I don't really care. As long as they're coming in and they're impacting the team, and first and foremost, they're the player that Ange Postecoglou identified, Jonathan. Do you know what I mean? Now, what we've got now is a situation where Ange has got Mark Lowell in now. A lot of people have good vibes on this because they've got a previous relationship. A lot of people are a wee bit uneasy about it, I think it'd be fair to say, Jonathan, because their concern is that he's going to go back to the drawing board, mate, back to the old well. You know, we're using that Duhu Dahan, where we're going to the City Group for players. But then we're also seeing the curious case of South American players being linked, such as Sousa, albeit he's not based in South America, but a couple of left backs in Argentina have been linked as well, haven't they? I had all the names written down, but I can't see my Mcginlay. It is Ortega, and what is the other one called, Phil?
You've stumped me on this one. There's the first bit that's got past me. I know it begins with the letter B and ends in the letter I. Somebody in the chat will say.
It's Bernabéu. It sounds like Real Madrid's ground. That's why I know.
There you go then. Bernabéu.
That's what I remember. Bernabéu, right.
Bernabéu, that's it, yeah.
So that link, though, again, would suggest to me that, well, you know, there's two players from a completely different market than Celtic normally operate in. I find that quite encouraging. Whilst Sousa isn't in South America as such right now, is he not Brazilian? Am I right? And he was playing for Venlo last year. Was that who it was? Oh, I can't even remember. I'm all over the place tonight. But then you've got other links that go back to what we've seen maybe before, and that'll be like Itakura, for example, straight away a City Group signing, and people are gonna judge on this, Jonathan. Are you quite encouraged though when you see guys from Argentina being linked to the club, Jonathan? That could be that we are broadening our horizons once again, just like it was when we looked at players in the J League and took players from there. That was a bit of a bolt out of the blue. Do you find it quite refreshing that Celtic are now casting their net out to places, or continents, I should say, like South America?
Yeah, I mean, there certainly is plenty of talented players out there, and it's certainly not a market we've tapped into too many times, although my immediate memories of buying players from South America aren't particularly good ones. I've done when I'm thinking of players, Raphael Scheidt, there's a few bells that come to mind that didn't quite make the grade, to put it mildly. Juarez, yeah, there's a few different ones that came from over there, and I would say the hit rate's probably low to nil in terms of the ones that have came over and actually been a success. However, with that being said, I think now the scouting market does seem to be in a much better place than it's been in a long, long time. It comes back to whether or not you trust Postecoglou, and there's undoubtedly going to be talent out in South America, and if he's identifying places like Argentina and Brazil, and he's thinking there's players out there that can improve our team, which of course there will be, then it is refreshing to see that. I think I'm right in saying I don't think Celtic ever actually signed an Argentinian player before, so that would be again something that is quite surprising when you consider how long the club's been around for, and how many Argentinians now play in Europe, that Celtic have never actually taken an opportunity and signed one of these boys up, because there certainly must be talent there. I mean, their international team's no bad, put it that way. So, if you're looking at it from that point of view, then yes, I think it is nice to see Celtic now looking into an area like South America, particularly when, as I say, you don't really see us going into that market very often at all. And with the success rate, as you rightly say, that we've had in the Asian market last year, if there's players into South America, which undoubtedly there will be because of how big the countries are and how good they are at football, and football's premised to live and breathe that in a lot of those countries as well, and Argentina and Brazil, then you've got to be looking at that and thinking, if there's an opportunity there for Celtic and it's going to cost you a wee bit of money, so be it. But if you've got the scouting networks in place, then absolutely I think Celtic should be looking into areas like that, and they shouldn't even be stopping there. They should be looking into other areas, as well, that they haven't perhaps tapped into as much. And I think that's what Postecoglou is going to do over time. I think he will look to tap in all across the world into all sorts of different markets, because even if you're looking for example, at Africa, we don't get that many players from there, so there's another option he could potentially look at. I mean, the options are really limitless for a guy like Postecoglou, because I just feel like he's probably got contacts almost everywhere, or if he doesn't, he can quickly make them and work things out from there. So yes, I would expect over the next couple of years Celtic to go and start looking into areas that perhaps we haven't really looked at before, and undoubtedly that might be the best strategy for us, particularly if we're looking to sign players on the sort of strategy that we normally do of signing cheap and then selling for big profit. Then I think it'll keep the board happy as well.
Definitely, Jonathan. I think you made some good points there. I don't know if there's an echo coming through. I also think there's a good point that Jay Lee makes there, Jonathan, when he's saying, talk of different markets. No one's saw Matt O'Reilly coming to Celtic for League One. We do have scouts everywhere. I'm going to play devil's advocate, though. Now, I know how the Celtic fans are. I don't mean I know how Celtic fans work. I know how the game works in terms of a fan's mindset. We can be fickle. Fans can be fickle. It is that simple. Now, when we qualify for the Champions League, Jonathan, we spoke all last season about this being a season with a jackpot at the end. Riches, Jonathan, beyond our wildest dreams.
Yeah.
Are genuinely fans going to accept if this summer, with all the extra money in the pot, that if we were to be, you know, discovering these new markets, and you know, that's great and it's exciting, and they must be Angie's guys and things. But will we, as fans, honestly accept going into the Champions League with a handful of a couple of £1 million signings? I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. And I know CCV and Jota cost dwarfs those sort of amounts. But I can't help but feel that as a fan base, we will eventually start going, oh, where's the rest of that money gone? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And whilst it's great that we're branching out and we're looking in different continents, I'm all for that. If we were to be on the wrong side of some doings in Europe, which could happen anyway, by the way, even if we do spend money, but say we don't, then I guarantee you those two will be then paired together. We spent money that we were spending 25 years ago, and we wonder why we're getting done in 2022, 23 in Europe at the big boys table, where half their squad cost 10 million plus, 20 million plus, right? How did we expect to compete with that, spend 1 to 2 million? Yada yada. These are guys you've never heard of, and that's how it can then go, you know?
Yep.
So do the Celtic board need to look at it effectively and go, if Ange has identified targets, and yeah, he might have certain targets that cost less, are we as fans going to accept if Ange's top 5 targets are only £1 million, £2 million? I don't think so, because I think the narrative will change as the season progresses. If it weren't to go well in Europe, that it would be Ange must have higher targets than that, and that's what he was given. I can see it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, you know, in terms of that, and the only person who really would know the answer to whether or not they're going to be his number one signs would be Postecoglou, really on a lot of those sort of deals that would be going through. I would imagine he'll probably looking at spending a bit more money this time around, given what had happened last year with the fact he was, you know, working a bit of a shoestring budget with most of the players he brought in. So I would kind of turn around and think there's a pretty good chance you know, he'll get a bit more money to spend. I think, you know, fans are fickle, and it's one of those ones where, you know, he could end up signing a few players at £1 million, and then, you know, you end up getting a few scalpings in the Champions League, and it's all of a sudden, oh, well, they just didn't spend the money, and it was the board's fault, it didn't back him in the summer. Or you could end up with the reverse, where if you flip it, where, you know, he could end up buying these players for £1 million, they end up working out, Celtic end up punching above the weight in the Champions League like they have done in the past. And, you know, and all of a sudden Ange's a god, and the board have pulled off an absolute masterstroke. So it can work either way, and I think, you know, it always just comes back to the fact that not just Celtic fans and football in general, when you don't get the results you want, you're always going to be looking for reasons why. And of course, if you're only spending £1 to £2 million on players, that's going to be one of the first things fans are always going to latch on to when results don't go the way that they want. But it'll be interesting because, as I say, I think the board's looking a lot more promising over the last 6 months or so. And there's not any indication to me that if the right player became available, why they might not decide to go and spend, you know, £5-6 million on 2 or 3 players at that sort of price range for all of them. So it's one of those ones, if, you know, you're looking at it, I think you've got to be hopeful that whoever Postecoglou identifies and wherever they are from, the board will actually go and back them, and whether they end up being £2 million signings or whether they end up being £7 million signings, I actually think the board will back them on that, and I think Postecoglou will, by and large, get his first choice as where the players want to actually come.
Oh, he's muted himself.
Oh, he's gone back onto mute. We'll ask you, Phil, what you think about that.
Well, earlier on what you said about we don't want to obviously piss the big man off here. Like, see this lovely picture that's in the background behind us on the screen, with all the fans outside celebrating. If we piss the big man off in some way, there'll be fans back up at the stadium again. But the fireworks going off will be going off for a different reason up at the stadium, and there might be some fences getting thrown again. Cannot risk that at all. Yeah, as I say, whatever he wants, he gets, given what he's achieved this season, what he's dug us out of where we were a year ago. And yeah, me personally, like, I actually get more excited when we're linked with obscure players, obscure markets, because the big man's shown. And when he came in a year ago, and a lot of fans were kind of like, never heard of this guy, don't you think? One of the things that I saw as a positive is I bet he'll know all sorts of markets that we've never ever tapped into. Because even going further back into the decade when we signed guys like Victor Wanyama for less than £1 million, he was playing in like one of the lower teams in the top league in Belgium. Never have heard them. And I love when Celtic sign players like that, like totally under the radar, and they turn out to be an absolute worldie of a player. And now we've got a guy in charge who has got experience of other markets from around the world that we've never heard of. So it's great being liked by these Argentinian players. And you're right, we've never ever signed an Argentine before, which is a strange stat given, you know, the stature of the club. But when I'm hearing us getting linked to like Iraqi players in the Swedish league, I'm kind of like, he must be good. Like Ange has got my trust now. If Ange thinks he's good, then he's got to be. I've just got this idea that as crazy a concoction as it may sound, like the nationality in the league they're playing in, and I'm like, nah. The big man knows what he's doing here, and I'm actually more excited when it's these type of players that are popping up. And I'm like, yeah, man. But I can understand when it comes to a fan point of view. You're right, Russell, about fans being fickle. You know, on one hand, let's even take it away from just like a transfer. Let's say we've got a youth player, a player on the B team that's an absolute sensation. He's going to be something, right? And it's like, well, we can promote this guy to the main squad, and he's going to be a sensation. Or we can go and spend $5 million on this guy in the Italian league, and he's got a fancy sounding name. Fans are always going to take the big signing option because that attracts people. You know, they see that and they get dazzled by that. But I say this boy that's playing in the youth team could be an absolute sensation, but that's another topic for another time, and maybe a reason why so many of our youth players seem to be leaving the club over the years. We're not giving enough of a chance, but that is a football problem, a football fan problem in general. You get blinded by the big fancy names from the fancy leagues, big bucks spent on this guy. Oh, he must be good. But there could be a gem sitting right under your nose, whether it's a transfer for less than £1 million or a player in the youth team that could be a sensation. You just don't know.
I think it's absolutely spot on. I mean, the point I'm trying to make is about fans in general, how it can go, how it can end up looking the other way around. And I think it is a risky game when we all know, you know, the revenue that Celtic's going to be bringing in over the summer and into next season, that if there isn't, you know, a couple of blue chip signings there, I think that will then get pointed to as the reason, if there were, which I think there is still a high chance of, we have a couple of batterings in Europe. That can happen at the top table. We know it only too well, and that's not being negative. It's just the way it is. Whilst we do want to be competitive as well in the Champions League, is it really fair, Jonathan, to expect then guys from other continents to be coming in, settling in with a bang at the start of this pre-season and hitting the heights of the Champions League and getting results in it, Jonathan, that have came in at low cost, you know, price tags? I think it's surprising. I don't base everything on price tag, by the way. That's not the point of the conversation I'm having. What I'm trying to say is I can just see how it plays out and how the narrative will change it. Ange was given peanuts when he was entering, you know, a millionaire's playground. That will be the sort of narrative that comes out, Jonathan, if we were on the wrong end of some hidings. So if you've not done that and you've not backed him with real money in the summer, then whether that was Ange's choice, whether Ange was happy with that or not, is a completely different argument. Let's be honest, it will change. The narrative will change as the season goes on. And it will then start pointing towards that. That's all I'm saying. All very hypothetical, I accept as well, Jonathan. But just how important is it as well that Celtic as a club, Jonathan, keep up capitalising on the incredible feel-good factor that there now is at the club. This club has been absolutely, you know, torn apart in the year trying to win the 10, and somehow brought back together so quickly because of one man, Ange Postecoglou. But whilst there is such good vibes, Jonathan, how does Celtic capitalise on that? How do they keep this feel-good factor going? Because make no mistake, the new Adidas kit, for example, Jonathan, I bet that's had more pre-orders than a kit since Adidas took over. Not only because it's smart as fuck, but secondly, I genuinely think because there's this buy-in right now from the fans. I bet that's had more pre-orders than any other Adidas top, right? Yeah. Then you've got other examples like the way the Twitter account's working just now, Jonathan. You know, CV updating later on in the Friday night, just like they're just doing everything right now, if you know what I mean. How do they keep capitalising on this? And is there anywhere Celtic could go wrong as a club to lose what is an amazing feel-good factor right now? And it's one that I really hope they can keep going, because it does give the team on the park the best chance of success.
Yeah, no, totally, and I think it's actually quite well. It sounds simple in practice, but the easiest way to keep everything feeling good is you've really got Ange as the leader at the moment, and you've got to back him at every possible turn, and obviously be able to show that to the fans that he is being backed in this window, because that's what the fans really want to see. I think if things don't work out next season in terms of the Champions League, which there's every chance, it won't, depending on who they buy and, depending on the market and everything else, and just purely about where Celtic are really in Europe as the Champions League's a big step up from where we've been for the last number of years. So it might well be a case that we go into the Champions League this season and do take one or two hide-ins along the way, particularly when you consider some of the teams you could draw. I wouldn't think playing against Liverpool or a Manchester City too much at the moment. If I'm being completely honest, I feel like that could be a recipe for disaster, If you're looking at it, for me, in terms of what they've got to do over summer is pretty much give Postecoglou what he wants. If you back him, and then if things don't work, this isn't going to take an overnight fix, I don't think, when it comes to Europe. Europe's probably going to take a wee bit of time. Celtic have got to kind of get their act together. We've not been there, for me, as a club for a while. Now we've not really done enough in Europe for my liking for a number of years. But, if you start giving Postecoglou the foundations, fair enough, it might not happen this next season for us in Europe. And, I think most people would turn around and say if they get third in the Champions League group, then they'll be pretty happy with that. I would say that'd be a pretty good success. I think getting out of the group would probably be very difficult, if not impossible, depending on who you're drawn with, regardless of what happens in the summer window. And maybe that is a bit of a defeatist mentality that we also need to shake off going into games like this. But again, as I feel that takes time, I think the best thing the board can do over the next few months is make sure they're giving Postecoglou the tools, because this is a project. I don't think he's somebody that's going to be like a Brendan Rodgers that's constantly going to be having one eye on the job market down south. I think he quite likes the thought of trying to look at Celtic and trying to make them a bit more of a force in Europe. I think he's probably seen what's happened across the city this season and proven the fact that Scottish clubs can still do damage in these European competitions. I think Postecoglou will fancy his chances of doing that, provided he gets the backing that he wants over the next couple of windows. You've got to bear in mind, going back, and I go back to it regularly, Celtic were not really expected to win this league by any stretch of the imagination last summer. We all thought we were going to be rebuilding for a year or two. We've all said whether we even thought Postecoglou would be given the chance to rebuild into a second season if he didn't win the league, and that's been debated numerous times. I think, Celtic have obviously punched well above their weight so far under him. But I think, if you're looking at Europe, that might be a bit more of a gradual step. But as long as the building blocks are getting put in place, I think the fans will be all right with that. I think they will give that a bit more time if they kind of can see what Postecoglou is trying to do, and they can kind of see performances improving in Europe, even if the results don't necessarily follow straight away. And at least there's going to be something, there for them. I mean, in terms of the Champions League, Russell, what would you expect of Celtic, at this stage going into next season? What would you be looking for in terms of Europe from them?
I think it's all about, for me, I just want Celtic to compete in the Champions League this year. That's what I'm really looking for. I don't care if Celtic finished third, in the Champions League group stages before, who was in charge, Jonathan. And I'm not sounding the klaxon, but he did. And when he finished third, we left with a huge amount of pride. 3 home wins, competed against the best. There was a bit of frustration at some of the away unlucky results sort of thing. If Celtic would have a group campaign like that, where I felt, do you know what? We went toe-to-toe there. Yeah, we just came up short. Or do you know what? It was a bastard decision that went against us. As much as you would hate it at the time, you would reflect and go, the reason we're angry about said decision or something like that going against you or an unlucky moment would be because we were right in the mix. Whereas when you're conceding 6-7 goals against teams, Jonathan, and one of them's a dodgy penalty, makes no fucking odds. Makes no odds. And that's the big difference for me. Celtic need to compete when they're in this Champions League this time. And see, when they do, the belief levels around the whole club, from fan base, players, supporters, turn it into a completely different venue the following season, where hopefully we'll be on that stage again. Even if not, like, again, O'Neill did that first time in the Champions League where we got the 9 points, Jonathan. The following year we didn't make the Champions League. Well, what was Celtic Park in the road to Seville? A joke of a place to go. You could not handle it. And the heat was on because the belief around everyone had changed. Suddenly we were like, bring it on. See what was coming. That was all based on the fact that successful group campaign where we were very unlucky, but we competed again. So that would be the example I would look to, unsurprisingly. But that would be the example I would.
Martin O'Neill bingo. I did mention Martin O'Neill bingo on the bus.
One hour 6 minutes. But I think it's a good example. I think it's a fair example. I think they're comparable because when O'Neill took over, he was 19 points behind. He won the league at a canter. Ange Postecoglou won it. I think it was 4 points, but he sort of strode over the line in the end. Having been 25 points behind the year before. His first season in Europe was a disappointment, as was Martin O'Neill's. Went out to Bordeaux, second round of the UEFA Cup. Ange went out of the Conference League to Bodo Glimt, but really he went out of the Champions League qualifiers. He went out of the Europa League and then into the Conference League. It was a disappointing European campaign, in my opinion, with the odd glimpse. But Ange now, with his team more settled, adding the sprinklings of magic dust to it, why don't we be targeting, Jonathan? Do you know what I would be doing in the Champions League? I'd be targeting 8-9 points. Right? Folk can laugh at that all they want and say you've not got a chance of that. That's fine. Maybe we don't. But that would still be my target. Because if you get 8 or 9 points, we'll have been in the mix. Right? And that's where Celtic should be striving to be in the Champions League this year, is to be in the mix. I'm not going to say Celtic are going to win the Champions League, but I get the attitude. I think it was Paul McFarlane who was saying, we should be going into the tournament though still with a mindset of winning it. Now, I get where he's coming from. Like, every game, if you're taking it game by game, then you're developing a strategy to win said game. So therefore, if that pays off every match, you win the whole tournament. We know that is a very, very far-fetched scenario of happening. But what we can do, and what we have done in the past, Jonathan, with, by the way, teams under Gordon Strachan that I think this side would give a right good game against, if not beat. And we competed in Europe, Jonathan. We were in the mix. It's time for Celtic to be in the mix. Phil, what would your hopes be for the Champions League this year? All being well and good that Andrew's brought in the players that he wanted to, because we obviously we're going to go down that road. We're going to say that he has. What sort of hopes and aspirations would you have, without knowing what the Celtic squad is going to look like as such? What is still your hope for Celtic back on the big time?
First of all, we've got to take into consideration, we know the story that he went to the 2014 World Cup with the attitude that we're here to win it. It sounded ludicrous to Australia, going there thinking they're going to win it, but that is the attitude to have, and you are right. Celtic should just aim for, let's try and win every game, because, don't go in with this attitude, we're going to try and finish third. It's too hard to work out. Just go in and play, try and win every game, and if it comes off, it comes off, and at the very minimum, we should get third. I think one of the first things he's got to do, and he will do this, going by what we've seen from his press conferences, we've seen him talk about earlier this season when he was asked by the media about, what was going on over in the Rangers game, and he would say things like, we don't worry about games we can't influence. So he should be saying to the players, because I've noticed there's a narrative, particularly from the fans of that other club, about, well, you couldn't compete in the Conference League last season, what makes you think you'll compete in the Champions League? Fuck it, that season's gone now. Just forget about it. He should be saying to the players, you might hear this narrative in the background about you couldn't compete in the Conference League, shut that out. Who cares? It's gone now. We just move on. We start afresh, clean slate. We're in the Champions League now, and we have to push on from there. So yeah, you're totally right about we should approach every game and try to win it. I think if Celtic can, the first thing you've got to do is regard the Celtic Park games. That is the key one. We have to try and get victories. And it's crazy to think when you go back, to the Martin O'Neill era, the Gordon Strachan era, we were an absolute force at Celtic Park. And nowadays, the last Champions League home game we won was at Anderlecht. No, we won away in Anderlecht. Did they keep the Celtic?
Yeah, we lost in Anderlecht. Old
Yeah.
Anderlecht.
We got 3 points in that group. So basically, Anderlecht, we still lost all the home games that tournament. So it's insane to think that that's the position we find ourselves in when it comes to the home games. We have to try and get, try and stay undefeated at home. I would say get 1 win, maybe 2 draws, and try and get something on the road somewhere would be a decent enough foundation. Because if from a fan point of view, we would say 3rd place is fine. But that Ange Postecoglou will be thinking, no, I want to finish as high as possible. You'll give him a different approach. But to achieve that, we definitely need to turn around the home form in particular. Because I say right now, I am struggling to think what the last home win in the Champions League was.
Ajax, maybe.
What do you make?
Ajax, it was Ajax, yes.
Ajax under Lennon.
I think it was. What do you make of Jay Lee coming in there? I agree with him. It's become a tourist attraction a wee bit, Celtic Park. Too many players go there because they want to sample the experience. We're giving them this experience of a lifetime. Like, fuck that. Give them hell. Give them hell. That's how it should be. It should be intimidating. And that's what the actual... See, the thing is, the Celtic Park atmosphere, Jonathan, isn't based because, it's just so friendly and nice. And everyone loved it. Its mythology grew because of, wow, they just scream for 3 minutes while Zadok the Priest plays, The Champions League team, I mean, for those of you who don't know, it's called Zadok the Priest. Whilst that's playing, thank you. Whilst that's playing, I've never known any other stadium where it spontaneously makes 60,000 people just go, all at the same time. Like, it's mad. And I think that heat, we need to bring that heat back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's something you've got to be looking at as the home games are pivotal. But any time we've got out the Champions League group, it's been based on the home form. I think the 2 times we did it with Strachan, I think it was 3 wins out of 3 at home. I don't know. I think he lost all the away games both times. Strachan, and I think when it was Lennon, I think it was it 2 or 3 wins at home. I think he ran away to Spartak Moscow and then won maybe 2 of his home games that season. From memory, maybe lost 1 of them. So you've got to be looking at, if you're going to be realistically aiming to get out of the group, you've got to be winning a minimum of 2 of those home games and at least getting a point in the other one, and then you've got to be looking at something on the road against another team. But in terms of the home form, it has become a little bit, I don't really like to use the word touristy, but that is kind of how it sometimes is coming across now. It's like Celtic Park is a bit more of like a day out for these teams, and it's when the fans can just, their away fans can just go and enjoy and just snap some pictures, and we kind of just don't really put up enough of a fight, and that was proven under Rodgers that Celtic were so far off the pace, and that was a top manager that was in charge of us at that time, and he couldn't really lay a glove apart from the Man City home game that he drew 3 each. Outside of that, the rest of the games I think at home were dreadful in the Champions League under Rodgers. So it's definitely something that needs addressed. I think there's something going on there with the players. I don't know what it is, but I think there has to be some sort of psychological shift there. And I think Postecoglou, I think Phil's right, because he has turned around and said with Australia he was looking to win the World Cup with them, which, sounds ludicrous on the outside, but one thing we have learned about Postecoglou is he couldn't give a fuck what people are thinking on the outside, and I think he can block it all out very well, and I don't think he's the type of guy who's going to get faced if he turned around and thinks, Celtic are going to win the Champions League and says something like that at a conference, which I think he might, then I don't think he's going to care when the media turn around and go absolutely off their heads and start calling him a crazy bastard. He's just going to take that in his he's just going to take that in his stride and just completely put them to one side and just be like, right, mates, I'm going to prove you wrong, and we're going to pick up some points at home as a sort of starting point on it. I think, with him, I think you've got that sort of manager who can at least install that sort of belief into the players that they can go and get results. It'll be interesting, I think, as well, Russell, when you're looking at it, as if Postecoglou does decide to adapt at all his formation, or whether or not he's going to continue to try to play the sort of tiki-taka football that he likes to sort of adopt domestically, and he certainly has tried to play that in Europe, in the the Europa League and the Conference League. is it going to be one that you think he is going to potentially look at his tactics having to shift if he did go up against like so like, a Liverpool or a Manchester City or a Real Madrid? Is he going to turn around and be like, we maybe need to sit in a bit more like what Lennon did successfully against Barcelona the season he got out of the Champions League? Or is he going to go, you know what, if we're going to win these games, we're going to win it my way, we're going to die on my sword? How is he going to try and play that, do you think?
No, we need to be real here. There's two sides to this, right? I'm going to play devil's advocate because, fuck it, everyone, who cares, right? The honest truth is, Jonathan, Phil gave the quip about what Ange said before he went to the World Cup. He went there with the mindset to win it. He lost 3 from 3.
Mm-hmm.
Right? End of story. You could say, oh yeah, we're going to go to the Champions League, we're going to win it, and you think you actually might well do say that. Fair dues. That's brilliant. That would be really, though, putting yourself in a position for ridicule. I don't think, though, the good thing is that Ange will give up 2 boots what the media say about his performance in Europe whatsoever. He only care about what the fans' perception of it is and what his employers are, which is fine. But if that were to mean Ange is going to approach this, completely gung-ho in the exact same style of football, if it were to be against a Manchester City, as you say, a Real Madrid, a Liverpool, I think we'd be in trouble. I think there's talk there in the comments about, having double pivots in the midfield, 2 number 6s and stuff like that, or 3-5-2 you could try instead. I think that's when you get down to the personnel thing. You need to have options, Jonathan. I think that's why chaos is so important. Because if we are up against it, now it might not sound attractive, but we might need to just sometimes relieve ourselves from pressure. And that might mean going long. Yes, you heard it, Jonathan. At times, it might be, and we've seen it, Joe Hart had to go long because the mucking about. And the fact is, what I find is a wee bit insulting to Postecoglou. Why is it he is described as, Ange doesn't play that way? Oh, Ange only plays 1 striker. Oh, Ange doesn't play number 10, he plays 2 6s and a 4. Wait the now. This guy is also the guy you're telling me is an elite coach with the same people. Will be the same people. Now, I think he is an elite coach. Now, he has completely turned my head. Jonathan, I think it's insulting to him to think this guy thinks there's only one way to skin a cat, and it's the Ange way. I think it's actually doing him a disservice. I think it's actually slagging him off a wee bit. I think it's actually they don't realise what they're talking about. Ange Postecoglou will undoubtedly know that in the Champions League, when we are playing against the best teams, he will have to, Jonathan, play the fixture as well as play to the style that he wants. He is going to have to mix it, Jonathan. That is the thing. You cannot just go, we'll play the same way against Ross County at home, and then we welcome Man City on Wednesday, and we'll play the same way again and expect the same results. Doesn't work like that. I think there has to be an element of surprise in how you approach these games sometimes as well. And I think also in management, you find managers have shorter spans at clubs, Jonathan, now. I often find that managers that have the shorter spans is because they get sussed. They get sussed out and people work out how they line up. I wouldn't like to think Ange would be someone that would fall into that trap. I think a lot of the stuff we've seen last year with the regimented formation, perhaps it's used, albeit it's quite flexible in itself the way it plays out. But the fact he always picked the same sort of lineup, I think a lot of that was default with the squad, and then once it was settled and they were winning, why alter it? But we're going into a completely different field of competition now. This is no longer Europa League, Jonathan, which was the toughest level we played at. I'm not counting Mcginlay as tougher than Europa League opposition we played last year. Like Leverkusen, come on. That was the toughest opposition we had. And I did feel at times that the side adapted slightly. I did, right? Ange points to one of the defeats we got, I think, against Leverkusen, where he went, no, I can see the players are beginning to get it. I don't know. Either way, when we go into the top tier, it would be remiss of Celtic not to take into consideration or even acknowledge the quality of the opposition that you're going to be playing. That to me would be a complete misgiving. It'd be stupid. And I don't think these are terms that I would be associating with the manager that we've got in place right now, Phil Mcginlay.
I think I know the game you're talking about is the Leverkusen home game, where we did actually make a lot of chances that night and still got a bit of a doing. That night was 4-0. But I remember them coming out and saying, no, I can start to see that they're getting it and they're understanding it. But no, it's a tough one to comment with this. I think when it comes to people being a bit too black and white about it, he's got to play more pragmatic. I don't think it'll be a case of, it's not just a case of we'll just go gung-ho and then you've got the other extreme where we'll be 10 men behind the ball. Angel have a way to, still play a bit more pragmatic, but not in the case where we're all sitting with, parking the bus, as they call it, 10 men behind the ball. It won't be that extreme. And I remember Mark said something on the Sunday Blair that he was on Vegan, maybe the one last week, talking about a lot of Celtic fans have got a very cavalier attitude where we think football should only be played one way. And it should always be attacking, but no, we can still, and again, you always say, but there's more than one way to skin a cat. It's true, and Ange seems like he's smart enough and clued up enough. He's not, he's shown already over the year that he's been here that he can adapt. He can. Okay, I know domestic games are going to be very different from European, but I do think that he's got it in him, and he'll be smart enough to know that we can't go in and just play like that, especially if we draw, say, like Liverpool, something like that. It's going to be a tough night for us. But no, I can see him having a sort of hybrid, essentially, if you want to call it that, where we'll be a bit cautious, but not to the point where we don't even get out of our own half. I can still see us having a bit of a go, but we'll be a bit more strategic in when we attack, a bit more precise and when we're going forward, and not just everyone chasing the same ball and getting out of position. So I can see Ange adapting to it. I'm quite confident that we might spring a wee surprise along the way in this upcoming Champions League. I've got a funny feeling that we're going to do something here. And also, I'll just make one more point as well, just about we're talking about the stuff. I've got a moment that I think, a pinpoint moment where I think the tourist thing started to creep in at Celtic with the Champions League stuff. We've all seen the picture, right? Everyone's seen this. 2012, there's a picture of Messi, Xavi,
holding the
Iniesta.
I knew you were going to say that.
In our trophy room with Celtic shirt. Now, let's say Real Madrid are playing, like, I don't know, Man City or Man United. It's a Man United qualified, say a team with lots of trophies. Let's say they qualify for the Champions League and they play Real Madrid. Would you see a Real Madrid player in the Man United trophy room with a Man U shirt or for like a promo shot? You wouldn't see stuff like that. And then I remember a year after we played Barcelona in that game, we played them again in the Champions League, which is always a normal thing. And don't get me wrong, Andrew Iniesta is one of the best centre mids I've ever seen. I remember he got subbed that night. Every single fan in Celtic Park gave him a standing ovation going off the park. And I'm like, I get he's a good player, but you think about it now, you start to think instances like this, we've got to intimidate these teams. And when 60,000 Celtic fans are standing up and giving an opposition player, as good as he is, no doubt about it. But yeah, these wee things start to add up. And that was about a decade ago. And then you start to think of how watered down Celtic Park's become over the next few years in the Champions League. And then you look at the decade before that, where Neil and Strachan's era, and how fierce it was and how intense. But I always feel like that moment, I see that picture doing the rounds all the time. The Iniesta, Xavi, Messi picture in our trophy room with a Celtic shirt. And it's just like, you never see that at like other clubs around the continent where opposition players go into the boardroom, the trophy room to take a photo op and stuff. And it's like, so I just feel like that was like the moment that it began to happen. And yeah, the tourist element over the years has began to creep in because, hey, come see the famous Celtic Park atmosphere, guys, on Champions League night. Put your wee Instagram posts up and talk about how you love playing at Celtic Park. So
yeah, buy a fucking postcard on the way out. Do you know what I mean? It's like, come on.
Aye.
I don't think that's I just think we need to get that nasty streak. I think going back to the top of the show where Jonathan anchored it so well, it's how I want to finish off the show tonight. Because we didn't get a chance to talk about it, Phil. And thanks again, Jonathan, for your efforts at the top of the show. We appreciate it, mate. I can only apologise. People see me back doing this on my phone and we get flashbacks, Jonathan, of the state of something. The state of his cooking.
All right, stay on while I'm driving, I think, for the time being, but it was a good experience.
You did well, mate. You did well, mate. You did well. But I think for me, the guy Chaos Giakoumakis that we speak about so fondly, I think I described as a cult hero and then I froze. That was pretty much, I think, my last quote of Jonathan on the bus for about 20 minutes. Now, the reason he is such a cult hero is because he brings it to the table, this attitude, swagger, this almost looking down his nose at opposition, but also physically matching up that sort of attitude. And for me, it's no surprise that the two games he started against Rangers, we won. You know, I think he's very, very important for us going forward in these bigger games. I think he gives us something different. I think there's been a few comments coming in the comment section from the pastors saying they still feel we need to maybe get a wee bit more physicality.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the Champions League, you don't get more physical than what Chaos is going to bring.
Yeah.
You don't get someone getting the fans on side as quickly as what a Chaos can do, whether that be an innocuous but necessary foul in the first couple of minutes just to get the place going. Now, people might say, well, you know, football's moved on from that, guys. Bullshit. Football doesn't move on from these certain aspects, Jonathan. These are key, critical, wee, tiny mitigating circumstances. You can force yourself still that gets the people on side. The people. No, the people on side, the fans, your supporters, 60,000, turning it into that fortress because you've kind of upped the ante a wee bit. You've got them now thinking, do you know what? Let's smash them. And before you know it, there will be no Kevin De Bruyne getting a wee standing ovation when he walks off. He'll be walking off, mate, knowing he's been in a game, and we'll be booing him as he walks off, saying he's taking too long. Hurry up. Do you know what I mean? That's what you want to get back to. I think guys like Giakoumakis, Phil, epitomise what Celtic can achieve in Europe this year, because he won't be phased. He'll be excited. He won't be starstruck. He'll be angry. He brings the mayhem, mate. Do you agree that Chaos has got to be... Ange's got a wonderful headache ahead of him, right? Yep. It's a brilliant headache, but it's one that's going to need to find a way to get the pieces of his puzzle to include, for me, Giakoumakis in the Champions League starting 11s.
I think I used this example before in a previous one, but I said, like, let's say we draw Liverpool for talking's sake. Virgil van Dijk comes back to Celtic Park, had a spell with us. He'd probably get a bit of reception from the crowd. But see when that whistle goes, if Giakoumakis is up against him, Liverpool might very well beat us on the night. But I tell you what, Van Dijk will know he's been in a fucking game if Giakoumakis is the guy he's got to mark all night, because he will not, as Terry Robb says, he will not give a fuck. He will not at all. He will get stuck right in there. And he's key. We need... I don't think necessarily we need was physicality, but we do need players more with his attitude and his approach. That's something that we need, because he's got that, as you say, swagger. You know, you were in an AC Milan talk tonight. I used a comparison before saying, obviously he's not on the scale of like the ability of this player, but Zlatan's got that swagger where he knows that he's good and he doesn't give a fuck about other people's reputations, and he'll do things that are like, you know, the impossible. Like Zlatan goes for shots that aren't even on half the time. Giakoumakis does stuff like that. You think this shot isn't even on. You know, he'll go for like an overhead kick and stuff when you think, no, that's not surely good. He'll go for it because he doesn't care about reputations, and he knows that he's got the ability in him. But we do need, if we can find more players to sprinkle in that starting 11 with his attitude, then definitely we can give some people a good fright in the Champions League this season, without a doubt.
Yeah, I think Chaos Johnson for me is the guy who was designed for Champions League nights. Doesn't need to mean Kyogo doesn't play, by the way. Doesn't need to mean that, Jonathan. This is again when I feel
when you disappeared, Dan. That was it. It was pretty much about how you would accommodate them, and then you buggered off because obviously the question was too difficult to answer.
Nah, totally. I just feel at times it seems to be like almost folk are like praising the manager, but then also I think being quite condescending about him unintentionally. Oh, well, if you think Chaos Giakoumakis is playing, then obviously Kyogo's not playing. I'm like, no one said that. You know, we've got a team. We've got a squad. I'm wanting Ange to be able to build that jigsaw that has the best players. And I also think when it comes to the personnel, you've got to have guys that have got the right other aspects of the game, you know, that can handle that sort of occasion. But on that note, and it has been a Champions League night performance by Jonathan Boyce in particular, it has been a cameo from Phil Mcginlay, who's back tomorrow with
Is it tomorrow we're doing it
Nostalgia.
or Wednesday we're doing it? Is it tomorrow?
Oh, is
There's a
it? No, the
Scotland game
Wednesday.
tomorrow. And we went up against a Scotland game last week.
No, Wednesday, mate. Sorry, I'm talking shit.
Wednesday. Cool.
Wednesday, mate. Nostalgia's on Wednesday.
Cool, man.
Nostalgia on Wednesday. We are going to Euro 2000. I watched loads of it today, mate. I did
Nice.
feel like I was in a time machine today. I really did. It was class Nuno Gomez. What a player. But we will get back on the bus, and we'll drive it back through time on Wednesday night for some nostalgia. Phil will be hosting. I'll be the guest. We'll have the TNF Thursday. We'll have the Double Doon show again on Friday. It's just all happening, lads. Jonathan, thank you very much for your contribution this evening. I appreciate it. Obviously, hopefully I won't be on my mobile phone again next time, but if I am, then you'll know the game's a bogey. My Wi-Fi was down for like the first half. I think it's came back on, to be fair, but it was completely down. So I can only apologise for that. And the reason my camera kept going off is because I'm choked with cold. So I can only apologise. It was keep going off to blow my nose. So anyway, take it easy, guys. Thanks for being on the Boyce'S. Remember, hit like, hit subscribe. Is there a way I can still play Chris Sutton? We can only try, can't we?
Try, mate.
We can try.
It's embarrassing how easy it is. See you.
Bye.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.